Hi everybody, welcome to Line of the Week number 123, Motif Development Using Melodic Rhythms. This week's line is based on a chord progression found in the first 8 measures of Steve Swallow's famous jazz standard called Falling Grace. There's been a lot of confusion over the years as to what are the correct changes over this tune, so Mr. Swallow published the lead sheet for free on his website. Here's the tune according to Steve Swallow. It differs from the changes in the real book, but it's from the man himself, so it should be reliable. Here are the chords to the progression we are looking at today. We're just looking at the first 8 measures. The chords are A flat major 7 to D 7 flat 9 flat 13 to G minor triad to B flat 7 to E flat major 7 to D 7 flat 13 and then to G minor and then to G 7 and then to C major 7 and then it goes on to F major 7 in the 9th measure. The chords I'm using this week are shell voicings and maybe a triad or other 3-note voicing. I've posted the voicings and the fingerings in the sheet music. You'll notice that the voicings differ from the sheet music as they're printed, but they serve the same function and they have pretty smooth voice leading. Here's how they sound. Here are the chord scales I use. I use the notes from the chord scales for 2 things. First, as a source of notes for improvising, and secondly, to determine tensions to use for comping. The chord scales are E flat major parent scale to E flat melodic minor to G melodic minor to B melodic minor to B flat pentatonic to E flat melodic minor to F major to A flat melodic minor to G pentatonic. Here's the melodic rhythm I'm using this week. This motif is from Jerry Bergonzi's book, Volume 4, Melodic Rhythms, Used with Permission. Notice that the melodic rhythm lends itself to what is called over-the-bar line phrasing, which is an important concept. Hal Crook's definition is as follows, and I quote from his book, How to Improvise. Over-the-bar line phrasing occurs when a melodic phrase ends with a sustained note at least 1 full beat or more before a chord change. The sustained note is then held over the bar line for at least half a beat and usually longer while the chord changes. One very clear example of this, one of several in this line of the week, would be the very last beat of measure 7 going into measure 8. It sort of meets all the criteria in Hal Crook's definition very clearly. So here's the line of the week with the Guitar Pro backing I use to make sure I'm getting the notes and the rhythm accurate. I'd like to say a few things about the line. In measure 1, you've got the original motif using notes from the E flat major parent scale added to the melodic rhythm. In measure 2, you've got the original motif again using different notes from the E-flat major parent scale. In measure 3, you've got the original motif again. In measure 4, you've got a rest. In measure 5, you've got the original motif. In measure 6, you've got a fragment of the original motif starting from the middle of the original melodic rhythm. In measures 7 to 8, you've got another fragment of the original motif, again starting from the middle of Jerry Bergonzi's melodic rhythm. Let me also mention resolving tension, which is a very fundamental part of how I try to improvise to make things sound musical. I'll point out 2 examples in this week's line. At the end of measure 6, under the D7, going into measure 7, under the G minor 7, is the note F sharp, which resolves directly to note F. This is because if I didn't resolve the F sharp, it would sound like a non-harmonic tone against the G minor 7. Similarly, at the end of measure 7, the G7 going into measure 8, the C major 7, the F note resolves directly to note E because F is non-harmonic to C major 7. Another way of saying it is that F is an avoid note, or it's just not chord sound to C major 7. That's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.